So good. It's good evening for me. It's probably good morning or good afternoon to the colleagues in Brazil. So my conversation today is really just to look at a strategic conversation around digital transformation in the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. And I think early on in this presentation, I'm going to just focus on what the high level considerations were for us around digital transformation and what our main considerations were within this particular process. I think the very first thing that I want to focus on is what our view is of a modern parliament. And we are saying that we are working towards a modern parliament because this is an ongoing process that will never really end. And we've identified four main key areas that we felt are key areas for ensuring that we remain on track and that we have a vehicle for strategic development of our content and development of our parliament within the province. So the very first thing that we've looked at is placing a very high premium on our own values, on the culture that we have within the organization, both for members of the provincial parliament, the politicians, as well as our staff, our employees. And so when we're speaking about an appropriate culture, we have been speaking about a culture of service. So values have been the very first thing. The second one is to look at highly capable people. And here we're talking about a workforce whose functional practices are aligned to leading industry practices and standards out there, and that the employees that we employ within our organization, that they are solution driven. Of course, key to this entire initiative or our long-term initiatives has been the issue of technological advancement and looking at digitization to be our platform and the vehicle for change. We have been very clear that digital transformation cannot function in and of itself, but has to be the vehicle for transforming the way in which we do business and transforming the way in which we view the world. And the last angle to our strategic view has been seamless and improved governance and process efficiencies, so that we're not wasting time and entropy on processes that are inefficient and not assisting us to move forward. The key to the entire digital journey, and as we've been saying, it is a transformation journey. The key to this entire issue has been a top-down and a bottom-up approach. When we speak top-down, we are speaking of leadership in the organization, driving from the front, ensuring that we roll out our transformation strategy appropriately from a leadership perspective. But bottom up is the functional support that is provided specifically to, and the specialist support provided specifically by our IT colleagues in the IT space. Because there's quite a bit of technological and technological expertise that has to be explained to the business and rolled out to the business so that the business is able to assimilate this and actually link this to content in the business broadly. So there have been some tips that we wanted to just share quickly. I think from the get-go, we wanted to know exactly what it is that we want to do, how it is that we want to do it, why, and the impact that would bring. We have been very concerned to be action-orientated, and we've had the slogan, less talk and more do, so that we don't just do talk shop, but that there are actual activities and actions attached to this. We have looked at integrating the digital experience as part of our brand, of our organizational brand, of how we do business, and to look at this as a practical change management approach, so that we can get broad buy-in from the public, broad buy-in from staff within the organization, from members of parliament, etc. And I think one of the key issues for us has been that we wanted to make digitalization relevant, especially when it comes to change. People do not necessarily accept change readily. People are generally in their, especially in the public service, in their comfort zones. And so we wanted to make digitalization relevant so that each person can see their own role and their own contribution within the broader kind of process. And across the organization, we've been then trying to build digital, not as a silo, but across the organization. And I think key to this, and just focusing on the very first slide that I shared, is that key to this is having the right people. And within the context of colleagues who have worked in IT for a while, we always speak of people, process, and technology. And these three links are key to a successful digital transformation journey. When we speak of people, we say it's people who must be in touch, people who must be engaged, on tune, connected, dedicated, and people who are generally feedback orientated. And of course, people need to be informed about where we are going and what the journey is that we have embarked on. There's some further tips that we can consider. I think I've spoken to some of it already. The one is that digitalization or digitization is not an event. It's not a once-off project. It's a journey. It's exactly that. It's a journey. And so what we've tried to do was to set long-term goals for ourselves, medium-term goals and short-term goals, because we realize that not everything is achievable within the first few years. But at the same time, there has been a great sense that we need to be leading from the front. So our executive authority, who's our speaker, is the main sponsor of our processes. Our secretary or the accounting officer is leading as well. And then the senior management team and management. We are also within the broader context looking at when we deal with our recruitment processes, looking now at retaining the best talent, but also recruiting future fit talent who can assist us with being at the cusp of the modern game as we speak. So we have a vision of what exactly digitalization means for us, what that would look like, and what the broad kind of purpose is that would bring. But over and above this, I think the important part is that we have begun to develop a culture that is a digitalization culture. We've not been completely successful, colleagues. I think it is a road under construction, and we are still learning as we're moving along. I think I've got about 2 minutes left. So apart from the matters that I've spoken about now, there's the strategic leadership that is important, the technological enhancement that is key, and our strategic purpose that I've spoken about. So just very quickly, we have opted, like so many of you had, I suppose, opted for a Microsoft 365 stack. We are actually on the E5 platform at the moment, fully integrated using Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, and Microsoft Office as part of our platforms, looking at using Power BI and data analysis and data analytics for strategic decision making. So part of what this journey is doing is also assisting us in re-looking what our decision-making processes and policy-making processes are concerned. And then, of course, we use the platforms for the building of Power Apps, etc. We've migrated to the cloud. So I'm not going to be focusing too much on that. I just wanted to give you just a little bit of a bird's eye view around just some of the key strategic activities that we've identified around engagement, strategic planning, change management, people capability. We've looked at practice improvement, targeted leadership, and then, of course, I've provided just some detail around some of the actual activities that we have embarked on, setting criteria for the first 12 months of the projects, 24 months, and then of course looking at optimization into the outer years. This would include upgrade of infrastructure, etc., and then we've prioritized our processes. Those are my slides, colleagues. Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Titus. Can you hear me?
Hi, Sarah. Thanks.
Hi, nice to meet you. So thank you for your amazing presentation. So I took some notes about it. I have to confess that I'm biased by your last slide, for example, about the implementation and prioritization and things like that. I have to confess that I personally love it.
Okay.
So my first question will summarize these topics about, because you told us about culture, about leadership, about organization, about turning the digital transformation strategy relevant, that it's amazing. So I want to know from you, what are your main 3 tips for parliaments and legislative houses that are trying to prioritize their projects, but they have difficulty because, you know, when we are implementing a project, sometimes everything seems to be urgent or high priority. What kind of advice you would like to give for these legislative houses that are starting to draft strategy and implementation?
Okay, excellent question. So I think what becomes the first important thing that I think becomes key is identifying why we want to do the digitalization strategy and what impact this will have. So if the focus is going to be on, let's say, we want to have an increased focus on public participation, to, for instance, focus on key initiatives, 2-3 projects per year, to look at key initiatives that will enhance our public participation footprint, whether this means live streaming of events, or whether this means that we have a particular way of how we are engaging using digital transformation technologies, how we can use this as an example. I think for Parliament starting out, perhaps the dictum is less is more. It's perhaps better to start small and build incrementally as one would build a house, I suppose. Start small, because not all of us have the same skill sets and or the same resources. Each Parliament circumstances are really dictated by the kind of resourcing that they have at their disposal. So given that kind of resourcing, I would say take that into account, identify what it is that will have the most impact, especially if it's outward facing, to the public or to members of Parliament themselves, that will support them in doing their work.